Hi, I'm Robin Birkin, an ex-corporate marketer turned online business owner. I took everything I knew and created a six-figure life coaching business in the margins between nap times and a 9 to 5, and I'm here to share with you how you can do the same. Tune in as I share the raw and unfiltered truths, big lessons, and practical tips to help you build and grow a sustainable bread-winning business online that is both peaceful and profitable. Here, we dive deep into all things online courses, funnels, audience growth, and so much more. If that sounds like the things you want to learn, then welcome to Signature Online Course Secrets. Let's go. Hi, and welcome to Signature Online Course Secrets. It is my pleasure to welcome today to the podcast one of my favorite people in the entire world and someone who I just see skyrocketing from here because she has something that is like catnip for clients, and that is massive authenticity. And that friend is Laura Watson from Positive Fertility Coaching. Hi.
Hi, Robin.
Thank you so much
So
for
happy to
joining
be
me.
here.
Yay. I'm so excited to welcome you to the podcast. We've been working together for, I think, like 18 months now in the
Yes.
mastermind. And I'm really excited for you to share for anyone out there who is growing a business in part-time hours, growing a business their way, for you to share everything that you've learned along the way. So for anyone who hasn't met Laura, and I know that so many of you in our audience know and love her, she is a fertility coach. She has her own fertility journey and has worked or works a lot with women who are navigating IVF and donor conception, and really helps them step into a far more empowered, confident, and successful chapter in that journey. So tell us a little bit about your journey, how you got started, and how you kind of said, you know what, I'm going to shift gears and move into this space of coaching.
It was, I was so curious what you were going to say when you were like talking about what I have as catnip. And I was like, oh, I can't wait to know what she's going to talk about. And when you said authenticity, I was like, oh yeah, that's really what I try to strive to be. I want to become a woman's bestie that they can talk to about their journey, because it's just so complex and complicated and lonely.
Yeah.
So my journey started when I was trying to get pregnant and had some challenges. And then, the number one challenge that I had was that I was over 40 and wanted to start my family. And if prior to 40, I wasn't ready to start a family. I was in a committed relationship, but we weren't sure like what path we were taking together. And I always kind of felt in my whole life, professionally, I felt kind of like I was always flip-flopping and never felt in a place where I was ready to raise children until my husband and I got married and had the talk like, yeah, we want to give this our best shot. We are old, but let's science is on our side, we said. And so, we tried on our own. I did taking some supplements and making some dietary changes and throwing out all of the toxic products in my closet. Was very freeing, but did not get me pregnant. And then, saw a doctor and went on that path. And I won't bore your listeners with my story is available on so many different platforms. But after about 18 months of trying to get pregnant in one way or another, I resolved to the fact that I did not have enough eggs left to be able to get pregnant with my own eggs. And so we went the route of donor conception, and found that with that, it was a whole new chapter of a fertility journey. I had learned so much about
Mhm.
IVF medications and the side effects and how to manage this part in the organization and the mindset, blah, blah, blah. But now this is a whole new part that even less people knew about. So now it's not just about we're doing IVF, but I'm doing IVF and I've asked another woman to donate her eggs so I could have a baby.
Yeah.
And I found some resources, but so this was 2017. And I feel like in 2017, there was significantly less resources available for anybody navigating donor egg or donor conception. Maybe not donor sperm, but I found one friend of a friend who had conceived via donor egg and had a nice conversation with her. So I felt like, okay, I'm not the only one who's done it this way. And I found a forum online that I think I started the thread about donor egg. So I found some other women who were managing this, but the pool felt so small. It felt like a club that was
Mhm.
so I was very lucky that we identified our donor and the process went very quickly for us. She did her cycle in the fall of 2017 and I got pregnant at the end of that year. My son was born in August of 2018.
Yay.
And yes, and I was like, oh my gosh, once we chose this route, and I always felt very like, okay, this is going to be hard, but this is how I'm going to get my family. And
Mhm.
so this is it. But once we chose that route, it was all good news. It was never good news when I was using my own eggs. And
Mm.
so it was just a very positive experience for me, but also emotionally very difficult. And when he was probably about a year old, I wrote a blog, I wrote an article and pitched it to an online magazine about women in their 40s and 50s. And, a lot of that was about finding new careers and being empty nesters. And I thought that, this is kind of a story that they haven't done yet, but like my second act, my new chapter was becoming a mom. And so they ran the article and it did really well. And people were emailing me and contacting me like, thank you so much. I haven't ever heard anyone talk about donor egg or this. I really related to that. Sounds a lot like my story, but I didn't know anybody else who was going
Mm.
through it. So I was like, oh, good. Like people are responding to this in a very positive way. Around the same time, I left my office job. I worked for a nonprofit that I really enjoyed working for, but at the same time, did not feel like it was no longer my calling to go to an office 5 days a week, commute 45 minutes each way when I had this baby at home that I was so in love with and wanted to spend so much time with. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to leave this job. I was lucky enough to be in a situation at home where I was able to leave my job without immediately finding something new and being able to take the time to be like, okay, what's next for me? Is it writing? I love to write. Can I do some copywriting? Can I do freelance? How do I do that? And I can
Mm.
write, but how do I pitch my story? So kind of figuring that out. Meanwhile, I am now trying to get pregnant again.
Mhm.
And we were fortunate enough to have embryos from our donor cycle, but it's still, as like I said, getting pregnant with my son was all good news. Getting pregnant for a second time was a little bit more challenging,
Mhm.
where I had several losses. And, one in particular, I lost twins at 10 weeks, and which was an incredibly traumatic experience for me.
Yeah.
And the other losses were very difficult too, but that one in particular, just I really emotionally struggled with that. And then finally was able to get pregnant again and with a successful pregnancy, but that pregnancy was filled with a lot of anxiety because after experiencing the loss, pregnancy after losses a whole new branch of my fertility journey. And so after she was born, I said to myself, like, okay, I think that what I want to do is continue talking to women about their journey and helping them through. And I'm already doing that casually. A friend of a friend who reached out to me, she was a woman who went through chemotherapy, and she had breast cancer and had her, I don't know the proper terminology, but she didn't have a hysterectomy, but she had her ovaries removed.
It's like all hysterectomy. Oh no, not, I don't know about ovaries, but yeah, there's all different like types of
Exactly.
hysterectomies and all different types of
Right.
surgeries to get things. Yeah.
So this woman, like I said, she was a friend of a friend that I knew socially. And prior to having her ovaries removed, they did an egg retrieval. So she had a little girl at home, but she
Mm-hmm.
wanted a second baby. And she did an egg retrieval, which was somewhat rushed because the priority was that she
Yes.
was to be able to do her treatment and save her life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's at this point, she was cancer free and ready to transfer an embryo. But she admitted, I wasn't paying attention. I just went through the motions and I did what they told me, and I took the medications and I did the egg retrieval and then put those eggs on ice, and they retrieved 6 eggs. And then when it was time to start to do the transfer cycle, there
Mm-hmm.
was 2 embryos and she was devastated. But there was 6 eggs, she said, and not and she said to me, they probably told me that this was the math, but I wasn't listening. I was scared. And I was
None of
just
us are. None of us are
exactly.
listening.
And
Yeah.
right. And so I coached her through her transfer cycle. She did have another baby girl with one of those 2 embryos.
Oh,
And
oh.
so, and we were pregnant at the same time. So I was pregnant with my little girl, and she was pregnant with her second. And so that was a really special experience
Mm.
for both of us. A neighbor found my article online, and
Shut up.
when there was a picture of my family in the article, and she said, "Oh my gosh, I know those people. I think they're my new neighbors." And she came down to my house and dropped a letter in my mailbox letting me know that she was, I know, um,
Oh.
let me know that she was thinking of, struggling to get pregnant, also around 40, and was considering donor conception. And she was like, I don't know if this is weird. Feel free to ignore my letter, but if you are comfortable, shoot me a text and maybe we can talk. She's now one of my best friends, and we work together. And she said to me during like our relationship, have you ever thought about doing this for your job? Because you're really good at this, and I don't know how I would have managed to do this without you. Like, you're not my doctor, you're not my nurse, but you understand me, and I feel like I can come to you with the icky, weird questions and the dark stuff. And after I talk to you, I feel like I feel validated. I feel like my fears aren't irrational, but you understand me. So I feel heard, and I feel like I can go forward with a little bit more clarity. I don't know if she used the word clarity. That's a word I use in my professional life, but that's how she felt. And when she said, do you ever think about doing this for your job? I said, girl, I think about it every day.
Yeah.
She was like, well, what's stopping you? And I said, I don't know what the first step is. She's like, well, have you looked for it? And I was like, it's one of those things where, I've tried nothing and I'm all out of ideas. And
Haven't
so
we all
I
been there?
started. Right. So I started looking into it, and I decided the first thing I wanted to do was get certified. And I realized that that's not completely necessary. You don't, being a fertility coach doesn't require, I don't have to take, you don't have to take a board exam, or, I felt like I wanted more information. So for, one, to be able to offer more to my clients, and two, for the confidence.
Mm.
Like, I am
Yeah.
a certified fertility health coach. What do I need to know to do that? And so I found a certification program that I felt like I connected to. Can I
Yeah, go for
share?
it.
Okay. So I
Yeah.
did my certification through Elizabeth King and her Fertility Coach Academy. I liked Elizabeth a lot. I followed her online and kind of just watched her for a couple of months, and I liked the things that she talked about and really felt like I connected with her, where it was like the whole package. It was sciencey, where she knew her stuff in terms of the fertility process and navigating IVF. It was also a lot of mindset and feeling confident in the journey and feeling strong. And that's really what I wanted to do, I wanted it to be whole big picture. I didn't necessarily want to I'm not a dietitian, so I didn't want to do just diet and physically getting ready. I didn't want to do trying to get pregnant naturally, because that wasn't my path. And I wanted to learn more about mindset and learn about the different tools that women needed to navigate this and not be miserable. I felt like what I wanted to do in a nutshell, and I was like, I don't know that this will be my tagline, but I want to help women go through this process and have it suck less. Because whenever anybody talks about IVF, they're like, oh, it sucks. And I'm like, it does, but what can we do to make it less shitty? And so that's what I set out to do. I got my certification through Elizabeth, and which was a very positive experience, and I loved working with her. And once that was over, I remember sitting down with her and saying, and something was wrong with somebody's camera, or something was wrong with the audio. And I said, I need you to turn your camera on, because I need to see your face when I tell you what I want to name my program. And she was like, okay. And I said, I want to call it Positive Fertility. And she was like, I love that for you. And I was like, I do too. I want to make sure that it's not, once you choose your name, once you choose your LLC, like I felt pretty like, okay, like this, I have to feel really good about that. But it is what I wanted. I felt like it really enveloped what I wanted to offer clients.
Yeah.
And I built a website, and then I started an Instagram account, and I created a logo with a friend who's really good at graphic design. And we talked a lot about colors for the website. And we talked a lot about what my business cards would look like. And I built that website, and it's so pretty. And then I was like, okay, now what? And crickets. And, like the Instagram page went up, and, I had made, I think like I made a list of like 30 ideas for Instagram and what my first 30 days was going to look like. And I remember watching, and I don't remember who the creator was, but I was watching a creator's YouTube video and it was titled Your First 7 Posts. And I was like, oh, I need to watch that. And the first thing she said was, it doesn't matter, because the only people following you are your family and friends and not your clients. And I was like, that's really good advice.
I love
So I
that.
was like, and it was probably like one of the most genius things I heard when I first started this. Like it doesn't matter, because I'm not selling to the people who follow me in the first 7 days, because it was my mom and my dad and my friends in high school who were very supportive. But I started building, and I started following some other accounts. I started following people like Maida Getman, who was a donor conception coach. And I just thought that she was like everything I wanted to be. I still feel that way. And
we all feel that way about Maida.
yeah. And like, if, I was just so inspired, and I'm trying to think of some of the other people that I followed. I'm blanking on names. I started following these people who really seemed to have it all figured out. And I joined the Facebook group for fertility coaches, which at the time I had no idea that that was your Facebook group. I just thought that it was people chatting. And I think that I eventually found your podcast and listened to like a short-term podcast that you had with Devin, and that I think that was one of the first times where I was like, I need to make a decision here. Do I want to spend my time trying to figure out how to create content, or do I want to spend my time being a fertility coach? Because they both seem to be full-time jobs. And I was open to getting help. I started watching a lot of Stephanie Case videos. Stephanie Case is a YouTube creator. She used to be a photographer, but she taught me how to do reels. And I was not talking to the camera at the time. I was just creating like posts on Canva, and they were really, like I said, they were pretty. They used my brand colors. There was a lot of quotes. There were a lot of quotes, and I had my blog. I had my blog on my website. And so I had like 4 blogs ready to go. And so once a week I had a blog, and then I would write a post about that blog. I realized that like I'm spending an awful lot of time trying to create content, and I don't need to, I feel like it would be worth my while to get some help. And that's around the time that I started thinking about joining the mastermind. I think it probably took me a good 6 months to pull the trigger on mastermind, but it was a lot of conversations with myself, with my husband about the investment. And I remember him saying to me, you don't have to ask my permission. Like, this is your business. Like, if you think that this is the right thing for you to do. And I said, I believe in my business. And I do think that if I align myself with a coach, I can take it to a new level and make it work. I don't think I can do that by myself. And I don't want to feel like, is that okay that I can't do it by myself? And he was like, what have you done successfully that you've done by yourself? When you were a runner and you wanted to run a marathon, you hired a coach and you ran the marathon, in a time that you wanted to do it. Like, why is it acceptable to hire a coach for sports or hire a therapist for our mental health? And like, this is like one of the most important things for your career. Yeah, you don't need my permission. And so
doesn't a supportive partner just change the game?
Yes. And being out of not contributing financially to my family, I was feeling really uncomfortable spending money, and not necessarily in general. Like, obviously I spend money on like groceries and, beautiful wardrobe for my children, and, a pair of jeans every 4 years for myself. But he was really supportive, and he believes in this too. He sees how passionate I am and sees my growth, that I'm working so hard and, committing to making this work.
There's one question I've been asked more than anything else, and it's this. Robin, how do you get so much done in such a short period of time? Because I've never had the luxury of being able to work in my business and hustle those 40 to 60 hour weeks. It's all been between nap times, a 9 to 5, or the school run. And from my second year in business and ever since, we've had 6-figure plus years. So this is it. I've put together for you my entire weekly work schedule, my to-do list, and everything I do in my business to help give you the tips, insights, and strategies to help you thrive as a business owner in part-time hours. It's called 16-Hour CEO, and it's a value-packed PDF that takes you behind the scenes in my business. Want a copy? It is totally free, and it's at launcheasylife.com/CEO. That's launcheasylife.com/CEO. All right, Let's dive back into the episode.
And so I was really proud of myself for coming to the idea that, like, it's okay that you don't know how to do this. Why would you know how to do this?
It's like
You took a
10
couple of
professions in
marketing
one.
classes. You took a couple of marketing classes in college in the 90s. Like, why would you know how to do this? So
Mm.
align yourself with someone who does. And then it got really exciting because everything started to increase. My numbers just started to, like, okay, people are seeing me. And I booked myself on my first podcast, which might have been Maida. And
Maybe.
I became like business besties with Maida, who was, and realizing that she too was learning along the way. And that was so validating for me. And then I booked my first client, and it was my first client who didn't know me from, wasn't a friend of a friend, and who I wasn't giving a discount, or, charging or not charging anything. So they would give me a review. She, found me online and, was thinking about donor conception, but wasn't sure if she was ready and just wanted to talk somebody through that. And then it just started snowballing. And so now I'm in a place where I have active clients who I am helping through their journey. I have former clients who are nursing their new babies. And I'm still learning, I have so much to learn still. And so I don't feel settled, and I feel like I'm in a place where I certainly know a lot more, but there's so much further that I want to go. And so it's so exciting. But one of the biggest pieces of I think my story in terms of a business owner and wanting to be a fertility coach is that I am now a fertility coach. And earlier this year, I kept talking about, I have 3 clients who are expecting babies this year. And so one of those clients was navigating secondary infertility. And that was a lot of mindset work. And so her baby boy was born in the spring. Another client navigating donor conception, single mom by choice, was navigating that journey, and also, some emotional trauma that she was managing and working through that. And she had me along with her therapist, and who was sure she was ready to transfer this embryo that she created through donor conception. And so we worked through that, and she transferred the embryo, and she just had a baby girl. And then that first client, her baby girl's due in August. So
Yeah.
it's amazing. And to be a part of these families that are growing, it's just like, yes, I was right. This should be my job. I am good at it. And
Yeah.
it's so cool. What I'm not good at is navigating, like, what I wasn't good at was navigating content creation and navigating the ups and downs of Instagram. So, like, yeah, I needed help. And so thankfully I believed in myself enough to go get that help. And now more people can find me, which is amazing.
And it's like, it's not necessarily a complicated funnel. Things don't need to be a complicated funnel. And I think, we go from Instagram to discovery call to one-to-one client. Like, we're working at the moment on a signature program and adding, more layers to the funnel, but it doesn't have to be complicated, but it does have to be a particular combination of content and the way that you show up in order for that to lead to growth and sales. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I think I was trying to overcomplicate things. Like, I remember one of the conversations that you and I had where you were maybe one of the first, where you were looking at my Instagram and you were like, you're consistent and you're showing up, and that's incredible. There's a lot of fluff in here that I'm just scrolling past, and nothing's making me stop in my tracks. And I was like, okay, well, part of that's hard to hear because I'm, working so hard on showing up to Instagram every day, but also, like, that's awesome because now I have like now I know what I'm doing wrong. And if what I'm doing wrong is that my posts aren't, you know, exciting enough, or they're not deep enough. That's what the problem was. They weren't deep enough. They were just like, that's nice. And so I really had to put some thought into that. And also like getting the right colors and the right graphics were not important.
Mm.
Like now it's just a white background and black text that you can read, and learning how to go a little bit deeper and talk to potential clients and talk to people that are following me on Instagram, or people who aren't following me on Instagram yet, and giving them these statements to let them know that I get how they feel. Because going
Mhm.
back to what we said about how like my authenticity is really important to me, and what I offer someone is that I get it. I understand. And I believe that feeling heard and feeling validated goes so far in terms of feeling better about a situation, and that feeling better about a journey, feeling better about making decisions. I had a really difficult decision to make recently, and I was struggling with it, and decided to go and talk to someone, and just feeling validated that this is a really hard decision that I was making. And I was in a place where I was maybe carrying some trauma from my fertility journey and from my
Mm.
losses, and hearing that like that's probably carrying over. Once I felt so much lighter after that conversation, that I was able to move forward with what I had to do next. And I thought about that like, wow, like that's how I want my clients to feel. And I do think that that's often how they feel, and why this makes it easier for them. And just making them feel like it's okay to I have a lot of conversations with my clients about like, they'll start to cry and they apologize, because women, we always apologize for crying. And I apologize for crying too sometimes, because there's like the stigma around crying that it's
Mhm.
a yes, that it's unhealthy, but it's none of those things. It's like physically beneficial to you. And
Mhm.
crying is just, it makes you feel better. It releases a lot of the healthy hormones that you need to move forward and feel better. And so crying is highly encouraged. If you're not crying, then let's figure out a way to release some of that emotion. And just giving them that permission to
Mhm.
feel, I I truly believe is so beneficial and effective.
And letting that come through your socials, giving people that really good and clear
Yeah.
idea of exactly like who you are, how you support people, your energy, all of that things. It's so important for that to come across.
One of my most commented on, or I guess what's engaged posts on Instagram, was when I wrote, I once lied about using an egg donor.
Mm. Yeah.
And which is a true story. And then in the caption, I tell the story about how early in my pregnancy, well, actually, it was kind of late in my pregnancy with my son, and I felt very confident about being open about using donor conception, because I never wanted anyone to feel like I was not proud of that. This is how I built my family. I'm very proud of it. But there is a difference between secrets and privacy. It's not a
Mhm.
secret, but I was in a situation where I felt like a boundary was being crossed, and I didn't feel safe with the conversation that I was having and the person I was having the conversation with. And she was peppering me with questions about getting pregnant over 40.
Mm.
And she said, "Did you use your own egg?" And I said, "Yep." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I just lied. And how do I backpedal from that? Like, I can't believe I just lied. I'm so ashamed that I just lied. I feel terrible. I don't feel terrible about lying to this particular person, because, like I said, I didn't feel safe, but I felt terrible for my baby that I was carrying, that I just lied about how he was conceived." And so I just let it go. And then I didn't backpedal. probably to this day, I bet she knows that I lied if she remembers that conversation, because now I'm so open about using donor conception. So it's just like this embarrassing thing that happened. But it was a lesson in boundaries. And so I tell that story in the caption, and I think that people see that, like, yeah, she gets it. She gets that this is complicated. And I'm not saying like, do IVF, use an egg donor, use a sperm donor. It's easy and you get your family. I'm saying that, like, if it's the answer, if it's the key to you building your family, I'm going to help you get there. And I understand how it's challenging. But just because it's challenging doesn't mean that you can't do it. And it doesn't mean that it's not the right answer. And so
Yeah.
let me hold your hand. Let me guide you. Let me be that person that you can talk to or message when things feel tricky. So you're giving your mind a rest, or you're giving your body a rest, so you can move forward and make this successful. Because if you are all tied up about how hard this is, then I don't want your body to say, we're not ready to have a baby. You're freaking out. I want your body to say, we are ready for this.
Yeah.
Let's have a baby. And so it's complicated. I want to hold your hand through everything. And we talked about how, like, my program right now is one-on-one coaching. I mostly do one-on-one coaching, and I love one-on-one coaching, but I cannot coach everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And not everybody, it's not right for everyone. Not everyone wants to get on a Zoom call or a phone call with me once a week. They would prefer to learn everything that I learned along the way. And so we are, and I say we because you're helping
We're
me
in
in such an
it.
incredible way. And so I'm trying to develop this new program where people can just do it on their own, which will be a lower price point, which is nice, because I realize that my coaching fees are very reasonable, but it's not the right use of finances for everyone. This is a expensive journey, and if they're not comfortable with that, then I'll have something. I do feel like one-on-one coaching is by far the most effective way to coach, but it's not, how everyone wants to do it. And so I want to be there for everyone. I want to be able to coach everybody. So
What would you say are the biggest mindset lessons you've learned in growing a business?
my biggest mindset lesson was, it's okay to be afraid. It's okay to be cautious. Let's not use it as a crutch. Let's not take the next step because you're afraid. I am still working on that, as you know. Struggle a lot with imposter syndrome, and I always have. I think I have some deep seated confidence junk that is settled in there, and makes me feel like, this isn't, you don't know. Do you really even know what you're doing? And the remedy for my imposter syndrome is talking to my clients. Because when I get off the phone with my clients, I'm like, she feels better. Like,
Yeah.
she has a whole different, like, her face looks different, her voice feels different. And I'm helping these women. And so it's still there, when I go on a podcast talking about fertility, and sometimes they'll ask me a question, or I've gone on a couple of podcasts that weren't fertility based. They're more like women in business and things like that. And I had one woman start asking me all of these questions about the IVF process. And I was like, am I even using the right terminology? Because I know a lot about IVF, but I'm not a medical professional. And so a couple of times I had to be like, I need you to maybe edit that out because I feel like I didn't say that right. And so things like that make me so nervous, and I know basics about diet and fertility, but I'm not a dietitian. I would never recommend a diet to any of my clients. If anything, I encourage them to add in, because I'm familiar with a lot of fertility friendly foods. And so I will talk to them about adding in protein and vegetables and eggs. And I think avocados are the
Yeah.
best for fertility and things like that. But I'm not a dietitian. And so if someone's asking me about that, I get a little squirrely, like, do I know what I'm talking about? Or supplements. I know
Mm.
some basics on supplements, but like I don't pretend I know what I know, and I'm really good at the stuff that I know.
Yeah.
And we can't know everything.
No. So, what would you say are some of the aha moments you've had? So, for clarity for everyone listening, Laura and I have been working together now for, I think, 18 months. And what are some of the big lessons or aha moments or shifts that you've made along the way that have supported you from a business perspective?
When you and I kind of went through and did a audit of my Instagram,
Mm.
and that I found to be so helpful. And now it's a lot less work for me because I know what's going to work.
Mm-hmm.
I had like here's my private coaching page, and which is with some basic information, but the idea that I was able to kind of build the page and then having you be able to work with me to audit it, and just gave me so much more confidence.
Mm.
And so that was a huge aha moment. But the biggest was just recently, I was feeling down on myself because I barely worked in the month of June. Like I
Mm.
had some client calls and I had some discovery calls, and I got my, posts up. If you were just following me on Instagram, then you wouldn't know that I was barely working. But there was a lot of days that I skipped because it was just a very busy time for me. And you had said to me, didn't you get into this business to work for yourself so you could focus on your family? And
Mm.
so instead of being hard on yourself, maybe we should congratulate you on the fact that like you're able to do that now. And I was like, yes, that's exactly what we should do. Is that it's
I
okay.
love that.
I'm showing up, and so I'm still sort of working on my time management, not because I'm adding more work to
Mm-hmm.
my business, but I'm not adding more hours in my day.
Yeah.
So, and it's summertime, and summertime
Yeah.
is busy. And, there's days where I have a very loyal and reliable nanny who's with my small children for like 4 days a week. But on Mondays, I don't have childcare. And so Mondays, I am responsible for entertaining my children from the minute they get up until the minute they go to bed. And so maybe I'll have an hour to do a little bit of work in the morning, but maybe I want to spend that time relaxing, or
Mm.
maybe I want to read my book, or maybe I want to, but I'm not working on Mondays. And so
Yeah.
like if I have to jump on my computer, be like to email a client, or fix a Instagram, or get, put a post up or something like that, then I can do that. But I try to, manage my time in a way that I can put my family first.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. Because otherwise, like,
That's the
what's the
point.
point? Yeah. So I actually think that's the perfect time for us to start going into our speed round. But
Good.
before we do, you've shared so much incredibly about what you do, and entrepreneurs, many of them experience infertility too. So please let us know where people can find you. If anyone wants to go and peek, you're kind of the reels master, the way that you just do these effortless reels. Where can people find you? Where can they work with you? Tell us just all the things.
They can find me on Instagram at positive.fertility. My website is positivefertilitycoaching.com. My blog lives there too. And then, reach out, DM
Yeah.
me. I'm, whether if it's regarding fertility or you're a business owner and you just want to chat, like I am in open book. I'm just like so excited about what I have built so far and what's coming up in the future, that if you want to prick my brain, then I have time for you. So
Love
I'd
that.
love to hear from anybody that is, on a similar business journey and wants to talk about it, because I'm a cheerleader and I want everyone to succeed. And something that I've learned is that there is room for everybody. And I love that about women in business.
I love that as well. And I definitely think that that's the community we want to curate as well. Like the more of us there are who believe that a rising tide lifts all ships, then the better women, like business for everyone becomes. So I love that. And that's so super helpful. Now, let's do a speed round. I've got 4 questions. Do you have a book you recommend everyone reads?
The book I recommend that everyone reads, nonfiction, is Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert.
Yes. Do you have a favorite quote?
Do you want me to move?
No, we're speed rounding. Yeah.
Speed round. Good.
Do you have a quote that you love?
My quote right now is, fear is what can't be trusted. And that is Elsa from Frozen 2.
Oh, shut up. I love that quote. Yeah. That's a good one. Do you have a life-changing tip for anyone listening? It does not have to be related to anything we've chatted about today, but hit me up if you've got a life-changing tip.
Pilates is the most effective and time efficient way to work your whole body.
Ooh, I love that.
Especially if you are aging like I am and
I'm aging. That's definite.
You're falling apart. Yeah. Pilates.
I had a post go viral on Threads the other day about me entering perimenopause. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah. I need my coach on perimenopause, actually.
Yeah. If anyone can reach out, do you have just one message as we wrap this up that you would just love to spread to every woman out there?
I'm going to repeat something that I said a little bit earlier about, like, so many of us have insecurities and fear, and that's okay. Your fear is valid, because a lot of this is scary and it's unknown. Don't let it be your crutch. Don't let it be what holds you back. Let it be the inspiration to learn. And because you can learn it. You have something to share. Don't let what you don't know be what holds you back from sharing that. Learn what you don't know and find a way to get it out there, because there's somebody out there there's probably many people who want to know, and you're going to connect. And it means a lot to me that you referred to me as being so authentic, because the more authentic you are, the more that people are going to know that they connect with you. And so everyone can be that person.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, the perfect little pep talk to finish us off. Laura, I love working with you, and I am so incredibly proud of the way that you show up, the way that you grow, and are coachable, and you take on advice, you make changes, and I'm so grateful that we've been able to work together. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast.
Thanks, Robin.
That's all for us this week. I cannot wait to catch you next week. Another episode on the books. If you'd like to continue the conversation and get more super saveable tips, come and find me on Instagram @Robin Birkin. Otherwise, make sure you're subscribed, and I can't wait to see you next week.